So I'm testing this. I actually have my phone sitting on a bunch of pillows here, and I'm sitting on the couch. With the Ardent Sorcerer, Sabina's Exodus. So yeah, I kind of go by the book. That's my pen name, but everyone knows me as something different. Whatever I'm using as my profile, that's who I am, right? Okay, so chapter 1. I'm going to try to read one chapter. He loathed her and found her alluring all the same. His master's illegitimate daughter, Sabina, always lingered in the manor library. Silas Strathern, the apprentice, perceived his master overindulged her. He allowed Sabina to learn her own methods based on her mother's unorthodox meridional ways. Sabina kept a serious demeanor, as she had to fulfill a secret ambition after her mother had passed away. Her mother was island-born. Her ways were mysterious. A housekeeper, a healer, a companion, and consort to the sorcerer, Lord Epaphroditus Whitley. Although not his wife, albeit she gave him his only child, something his wife, the late Lady Whitley, hadn't succeeded in. Silas had come to live in the Willowbend Manor as a lad, under the tutelage of Lord Whitley. He was granted a formal celebration for his noble rank in society and initiated into the Order of Sorcery. That was 17 years past. Silas was still a sorcerer apprentice, alongside Lord Whitley's daughter, who was often the faster learner. Silas secretly resented having this younger lass outperform him on spell casting and book learning. He couldn't let her know how she made him feel. He had to remain courteous to his hosts. Years ago, when he did let into his feelings for the miniature sorceress, she had casted enchantments upon a set of chess pieces with ease. Silas had been engrossed in his studies, yet Sabina thought it entertaining to cause the chess pieces to march about the library. Annoyed, Silas tugged on one of her curls to show his disapproval. Rather than become upset with him, she spun around and threw her arms around him. "I'm glad thou art hither, Silas." Through the passage of time and the change of seasons, Silas had returned to Willowbend Manor from his duties overseas as a shipmate. Sabina had grown into a stately young woman. She had the dark eyes and thick curly locks, much like her mother's. She had the privilege to live under Willowbend's domed roof. She charted the stars above the observatory. She used her magic practices for the benevolence of others. But she would not inherit Lord Whitley's estate. She would, however, be spared a few items when he passed on. Books of all things, including the priceless antiquities written by the founders. Lord Whitley had gifted her as an initiate into the Order of Sorcery. Even if her bloodline was impure and inappropriate, Silas could not argue. Sabina daughter of the meridional housekeeper, was a talented sorceress in all her ways. At the breakfast table in the dining hall one morning, Silas kept his head low. He hid a painful boil which had formed on the base of his right side of his nose. It swelled so Silas felt it engulfed his entire face. The striking visage handed down by his mother, a distant ancestor of the line of Graves. He inherited his mother's commanding brow and stunning blue eyes, but his father, Lord Abraham Strathern, gave him a strong jaw as well as those intimidating masculine features he could call upon when he needed to show some bravado, even if it was only to bluff his opponent. He was, after all, a Strathern, destined for greatness. He was the younger of two surviving sons. His elder brother, Ephraim, had already settled in St. James Island as baron over his own plantation. He inherited most of the family's wealth. Silas, on the other hand, received something money couldn't afford, the uncommon initiation into the order of sorcery. He was destined to serve the throne of Edenland. That is, if Lord Ezra Briggs didn't succeed. The office was to be filled by only one sorcerer of Edenland. There was only 3 sorcerers and 1 sorceress of whom Silas was aware of. Certainly the position would never be granted to a sorceress. With an open book, Sabina bit into the flesh of one of the orchard's ripe apples at the breakfast table. This had bothered Silas that she would get apple juice splattered on the pages of that book she read from. It seemed terribly poor manners to be had, especially in the dining hall. Lord Whitley was late arriving. More than likely his bowel trouble caused him consternation, Silas assumed. He knew his old lord and master was in considerable amount of discomfort. Sabina lifted her thick-lashed eyes to Silas, finishing her apple. She must have noticed he stared at her. Her eyes were in an expressive, deep brow. Her eyes were an expressive, her eyes were an expressive, deep brown. I'm sorry, it's kind of dark in here. I don't have the light on. Her eyes were an expressive, deep brown, like 2 reflective wells. Silas preferred blue-eyed ladies, though. They seemed more angelic, like his mother's, Flora Rose Strathern. Silas became conscious of the throbbing beet-red boil on his nose. He turned his head to his fisted palm. "Dost thou wish that healed, Silas?" Sabina pointed to her own nose and to indicate the boil on his. Master Apprentice or Master Strathern would suffice, dear Sabina, he's thinking. "Nay," he replied, "'tis but a common swell, no need." "It doth appear dreadfully painful. If thou would alloweth, I have a method I learned to heal. Sabina, if thou wast a sorceress with the powers to cure, perhaps thy father can't suffer in the throes of bowel agony." Sabina narrowed her eyes at him. "Forgive us me," he retreated. Sabina also had a commanding glare she inherited from her own father. thinkest not that I have ne'er tried to heal my father's affliction, Silas, she scolded. Nay, 'tis few and far betwixt, whenas the spirits of this world grant an initiate the gift of healing through the administrating of incantation. There was such a sorceress who could heal. I, the meridional priestess, Silas completed her sentence. Theron of the meridian, she clarified for him. She had harnessed that which minds doth doubt and tongues naysay, repair the body, e'en a body given over to death. Silas smirked. Haply, for all written word, 'tisn't troth, unless proven. 'Tis the precise reason we call forth the accreditations of a scribe to take account and bear witness of the works performed by a sorcerer. Silas Strathern had a pretentious manner of speaking, in which he would trill the CR in scribe, which I can't do. Sabina rolled her eyes at Silas. How dare she, he thought. 'Tis a sin and a sheer waste of a gift sent by the spirits to aid the souls of the sequestrate, she said. So few and rare a gem are we, that we must charge a high fee for our deeds, but for our driver, our scribe, and the tailor is charged a tax for the roof over our heads, wherefore we must live in a manner with servants, escorts, cooks, and groomsmen. We do not honor the spirit for this gift, squandering it on amongst ourselves and for the wealthy few, whilst the penniless suffer needlessly. Yeah, Sabina's a bit of a liberal. Yeah. Sabina continued. Mine own mother was kin to Theron of the Meridian. That was how Mam came to work and serve in the House of Graves. Those accounts of Theron were recorded and observed by those notable and worthy enough to keep record, as well as sing her praises in the oral traditions. I trow she was born into the lineage from dual initiatum. Rubbish, Silas argued. 'Tis ne'er a shard of evidence to suggest that parentage hath a bearing on offspring who is an initiate into the order. I say, that it doth, she debated, and the matter with thy pustule, my cousin Caleb Strathern, 'tis a physician in training unto the nobilities. I shall have him look at it. Silas raised his voice to cut her off. Haply, Silas, I thought, perchance, when as company hath arrived, thou mayest wish that gone, she said, lowering her gaze to her book. The manservant Abner entered and refilled their glasses. He prepared Lord Whitley's seat for his arrival. Abner, pray tell, what guest arriveth at the manor? Silas asked